Happy St. Patrick's Day. This is day 2 of homeschooling, and I'm going to continue with The Friend Who Changed My Life by Pam Muñoz Ryan. Sitting on the bench outside the principal's office and waiting to be called in, I worried about several things. Would the school tell my parents? What would my punishment be? What would Teresa do to get back at me? What would the other kids think? Branded, I was now a bad girl. The yard duty teacher just deposited us in 2 chairs, side by side, in the principal's office and placed the referral slip on his desk. Our principal was a balding man with glasses and a kind grandfatherly face. He seemed happy to see us. Smiling, he said, "Well, girls, I want you to put your heads together and decide what your punishment should be while I make a phone call." He picked up the phone and he made his call. I stared at his desk. I realized I could read the referral slip upside down. The yard duty teacher had written, "Benched for 1 week." Teresa leaned forward toward me and whispered remorsefully, "I guess we should be benched for 2 weeks." She felt worse than I had suspected. I glared at her and shook my head no. The principal put down the phone. "Well, young ladies?" "We should be benched for a week," I blurted. "I agree, and I don't want to see you back here anytime soon." He signed the referral and sent us back to class. "How did you know to say 1 week?" Teresa asked on our way back to class. I could read what the yard duty teacher put on the slip. Upside down, I told her. "Wow, you can read upside down?" Teresa said, her ponytail swinging like a pendulum. I didn't answer her. That night, I told my mother that I fell trying to jump rope double dutch. Here's a little break in the story. Teresa and I were confined at recess, at every recess and lunchtime, to the same green bench next to the stucco wall of the cafeteria building. It was indisputably the bad kids' bench. Kindergartners and first graders had to file by to get to their classrooms, and they always gave us a wide berth, their orderly line snaking away from us, then back in formation, as if our badness might be contagious. The bench faced the playground so the entire recess population could see who was not privileged enough to play. The yard duty teacher could keep an eye on us too, in case we decided to jump up and sneak in the hopscotch game. Indignant and humiliated, I refused to talk to Teresa, who didn't seem to have any inhibitions about being chatty. She bragged to me about all sorts of things, but I was aloof until she said, "My mom takes me to the big downtown library every Tuesday after school." I rode my bike to the small branch library near my house every weekend, but my parents both worked full-time and couldn't always manage after-school activities or driving to the main branch. The big library had 100 times the selection of the branch library and a huge children's room with comfy pillows. They sometimes had puppet shows, story times, free bookmarks, and writing contests. Yep, every single Tuesday I go to the big downtown library to check out as many books as I like. Before I could pretend I didn't care, I said, "You're lucky." I was suddenly jealous of Teresa, but I didn't want her to know how much. So I returned to my determined martyrdom. Instead of listening to her, I stared at the dirt and ignored the prattle. The week was over soon enough. The principal never called my parents. The other kids didn't seem to care that I had been disciplined on the bad kids' bench. In fact, I actually detected a subtle reverence from some of my classmates. From then on, Teresa left me alone, and Mary Lou was widely acknowledged ally. I didn't know how I'd ever repay her. Another break. A few weeks passed, and one of the girls in our class had a slumber party. All the 5th grade girls were invited. The barrage of females descended on the birthday girl's house with sleeping bags, pillows, and overnight cases. Mary Lou and I set up our sleeping bags right next to each other. The night progressed happily. until someone suggested we tell ghost stories. I hated ghost stories. I had far too active an imagination, which always took me much farther than the storytelling. I couldn't seem to turn off the dark, scary world. If I saw even a slightly scary movie on television, my stomach would churn for days, and I'd have to sleep with my bedside lamp on all night. Mary Lou must have felt the same because she moved closer to me. We huddled together behind the avid listeners with our pillows almost covering our face. There was no way not to listen. One girl told a particularly gruesome tale about a tree whose giant branches turned into fingers and could grab and capture children. Most of the girls squealed and clutched one another in mock terror before they ended up giggling. Already fraught with anxiety, I couldn't imagine how I could get through the night. I suddenly wanted to be in my own house, in my own bed, with my parents down the hall and my trusty bedside lamp. There didn't seem to be any way out of the situation that wasn't humiliating. At least Mary Lou was by my side. Suddenly, Mary Lou started crying. I'm scared, she said. I want to go home. Mary Lou had read my mind, but had voiced it with her own tears. One of the girls said, don't be such a baby. Others chimed in, Mary Lou's a scaredy cat. I'm calling my parents, said Mary Lou through her giant sniffles. The baby's calling her mommy and daddy, the girls chanted. I shivered in my sleeping bag, my stomach sick with fear, sick with that Mary Lou was leaving, sick that I was next to a window with a tree looming on the other side. Mary Lou headed toward the phone and didn't seem to care about the taunting. She called her parents with her chin up, set the phone down, and methodically began packing up her things. My sleeping area looked bare without Mary Lou's sleeping bag and blanket. A tree branch brushed up against the window from the wind. I was convinced it was the same tree from the story and that I would be its next victim. I stood up and began rolling up my sleeping bag. I'm going home too. Mary Lou, can your dad give me a ride? I heard more giggles. Then, from across the room, a small voice said, me too? Mary Lou nodded. I secretly celebrated. I knew that we'd suffer the consequences of the gossip and finger-pointing at school on Monday, but now I didn't care. There was safety in numbers. As I dragged my things into the hallway, I saw the third person. It was Teresa. The three of us huddled on the front porch waiting for Mary Lou's dad. In the final gesture of belittlement, one of the girls turned off the porch light so that we had to wait on the front steps in the dark, directly under a tree with the sprawling branches. On the other side of the door, the party howled with laughter. I was never so grateful to see the station wagon headlights. Mary Lou's dad headed toward Teresa's house first. On the way, we were mostly quiet, but I felt happy. Happy I was going home to my own room. Happy that Mary Lou's tearful exit scene had been watered down by our group's departure. I was puzzled, though, that Teresa had been frightened too. She always seemed so confident, so tough. In front of Teresa's house, she climbed out the car and said, so, do you guys want to go to the big library with me after school on Tuesday? My mom drives me, and she could drive you too. I would love to go to the big downtown library on Tuesday after school, I thought. But with Teresa, my mind battled with my emotions. Teresa eagerly continued, my mom can call your moms too, you know. Make sure it's okay and everything. I hesitated. Are you going? I asked Mary Lou. I can't, she said, but you should go if you want to. Teresa sounded sincere enough. Mary Lou nudged me in the back seat as if to say, go. I finally nodded. There was a strange camaraderie given our history. Teresa and I shared many trips to the library together on Tuesdays. I often wondered if, in some convoluted way, Teresa's abuse had been an attempt to get my attention. She liked the library, and I always had my nose in a book. So she targeted me. Too bad for my legs that she didn't have better social skills. Mary Lou's still my hero. If a person believes in the domino effect, the premise that one action triggers another, then I am deeply indebted to her. If she had never made me stand up to Teresa, I would have existed on the outskirts of fifth grade society, always defenseless. I would never gain Mary Lou's respect or become her friend. I wouldn't have gone home with her that night at the slumber party. Instead, I would have suffered through my worst imaginings. And if it weren't for Mary Lou, I might not have had the opportunity or courage to accept Teresa's invitation to the big library on Tuesdays, which fueled my affection for books in a dramatic way. After all, I was entering the enemy's camp. It's sometimes easier to be brave if you have someone with whom you can stand beside or you know is always standing behind you. Being Mary Lou's friend was always comforting, even when she revealed her own vulnerability. Big, strong people have fears, as do tiny, wiry people, and it often takes more courage to reveal a weakness than to cover it up. She was confident, determined, fair-minded, and unafraid of her emotions. I was her antithesis, naive, insecure, and desperately wanting to be part of something. Mary Lou fit in because she didn't try to be anything but herself. I wanted to be just like her. So, readers, I have a question for you. What do you think the theme of this short story is? Some great things that happened in the story, right? And there was 2 vocabulary words, I guess complex vocabulary words that I kind of wanted us to figure out. This one right here, remorsefully. Teresa leaned toward me and whispered remorsefully, I guess we should be benched for 2 weeks. She felt worse than I had suspected. Remorsefully. What do you think that word means right there? And also, at the end, I wonder if, in some convoluted way, Teresa's abuse had been an attempt to get my attention. What do you think convoluted means? And the last one, Mary Lou is still my hero. If a person believes in the domino effect, the premise that one action triggers another, then I am deeply indebted to her. So tomorrow's readers, I'll be back. I hope that you have a great day, and then I hope you check your Google Classroom, please, and your parents are looking at Dojo for your assignments. Remember, I'm here for you, so please come and text me, call me if you need anything. Stay safe.